It had occurred to me that it had been a while since Disney had actually gone out and attacked Gina Carano, probably because they're in the midst of a pretty serious lawsuit with her. And of course, that case is getting additional ammo added to it on the daily because of Rachel Zegler and Disney's treatment of her. But we'll set that all aside for now and just mention that for whatever reason, ESPN took a shot at Gina that nobody saw. Well, of course, nobody saw it. Well, because nobody pays attention to ESPN anymore. But nobody saw it. It's like 8 months ago, and the story just kind of found its way back out, courtesy of a retweet of an old story attacking Gina Carano's UFC career. I have to tell you, that was a big deal to all of us. And you know what? We're going to talk about it right now. Here we go. I didn't like that at all, or your quarter second one. So it occurred to me it'd been a while since Disney had attacked Gina Carano. And look, they were getting pretty regular at it and really doing her some disservices in the background, making sure that they got her from all angles, including her agency and things like that. Well, set that all aside for now because they hadn't stopped attacking Gina. We just didn't know it. You know why? Because this was being done over on ESPN. And nobody watches ESPN anymore. So we come to find out that 8 months ago, they went swinging at Gina again to basically take her out of the top 10 of women's MMA fighters and rewrite some history. So let's talk about it. Here we go. Joining me today is a very special friend and somebody that I think is going to be a huge YouTuber. It's Kevin Apollo, and he's often featured over with Marvin the Movie Monster on Tooneytown TV and Tooneytown Wrestling. Now, wrestling seems to be your specialty, Kevin, so tell us a little bit about what you think about UFC and what you think about what we're about to talk about.
Well, yeah, I was thinking while you're doing your intro, again, being a kid in his 40s. Remember when ESPN was a must-see TV?
I do. Yeah, we used to watch it all the time. We used to watch Sports Center throughout the night, so I understand.
We lived and died for the Sports Center commercials, and now, all these years later, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find someone who even cares about anything that even comes up on ESPN, which is probably why it took so long for us to find out about this. And when it comes to UFC, I'm a casual fan. I used to pop in and out for the pay-per-views. I only kind of really know who's the top star of the day. But Gina was the deal. She was the deal, and that's actually she was on top when I was watching the most. And what she did over in Strikeforce, her incredible record, the historic fight with Cyborg. That those were major moments that cemented her place in the sports history. So for this slight to go the way it went, obviously, at least in my opinion, I feel it was intentional. It was silly, and it just reminded everybody why we all, come to this space and look for, look for alternate voices to kind of make sure that we're not the crazy ones.
Well, and I'm right there with you. And let me say, if you're ESPN, sometimes you live long enough to be the villain. But let's jump on this story. We've got it right here, coming out of ESPN. Now, mind you, this was 8 months ago. We want to give fair play to that. It's just nobody knew it. The top 10 women's MMA fighters of the 21st century. And let me tell you, they leave off the most important one, or one of the most important ones, somebody who was formational for the when this was just a nascent new little thing, a baby, an infant. And Amanda Nunez is there. There's Cyborg. Strange you mentioned her. You got, of course, Ronda Rousey, also very famous, also an actress. And you've got Valentina Shevchenko. You've got Joanna, and I can never pronounce her name. Yeah. You have a list of 10 women here, but one of the women not here is Gina. I wonder why they did that. You know what, Kevin? Speculate on why they left our friend Gina out of this list.
I wonder if it has anything to do with ESPN being owned by Disney. And, maybe Gina has the wrong opinions for some people and their sensibilities over at ESPN. I don't know. Considering that I guess she made it with Dana now, because I saw he gave a very vigorous defense of her a few hours ago. But, we aren't that far removed from them trying to broker the Gina Carano versus Ronda Rousey fight. So I just don't get it. I need to know. Listen, I get it. Sometimes ideology gets in the way, and it strips you of common sense. But there should have been an editor somewhere sitting in a dark room, trying to earn their check, who said, "Hey, we're leaving some pretty important people off of here, and we're going to catch some flack for it. Why don't you try to do the right thing?" But I guess in this era of media, that's asking for a bit too much.
Well, I think when it comes to doing the right thing, Disney has no idea what that is anymore. And here we are from our friends over at That Park Place and the Marvin Montanaro himself writing. Disney attempts to erase Gina Carano by leaving her off of the ESPN list of top women fighters in MMA. The UFC boss, Dana White, flips out. See, that's what I would have done with the headline. But, a little bit more calm over there for Marvin. But he did. He lost his mind. And look, we're going to get to that in just a second. But in what can only be described as another stunning example of Disney rewriting history, ESPN, the sports media giant owned by the House of Mouse, released a list of the top 10 women's who changed MMA in the 21st century and completely excluded Gina Carano. Yes, ESPN, I guess, excluded the same Gina Carano who helped build the entire sport.
Yep.
It wouldn't be what it is today without her and some of these other amazing things she was involved in. The list of names features Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes. We just went over them, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it was presented with the tagline, Champions, Trailblazers, and Hall of Famers and Icons. These stars shattered stereotypes and elevated women's MMA to unprecedented heights. And I believe all those accolades are appropriate for everybody that was named, except they left one of the most important people off the list. Kevin, could you think of any other reason why they would have left Gina off there other than the fact that, she has the wrong think?
Unless the person just had no idea what they were writing about. It's the only other thing I can give you, because even when you look at it, Gina was one of the first crossover stars from UFC. Right. She became an actress because of it. What was the name of it? Haywire? Haywire, right? Well, how many stars are in that movie? Fassbender, Tatum. I can't even remember everybody. It was a big freaking deal. So to do this, it's incomprehensible. I really just I don't know what's funnier, that they thought that no one was going to notice, or that it took us all 8 months to notice, because ESPN is just
they're a non-factor. I think most people are looking at ESPN as like political commentary half the time. I mean, take a look at what Stephen A. Smith's going to be allowed to do over at ESPN with his new contract. It's absolute insanity. But hey, somehow the woman who literally brought women's MMA to the national spotlight, who headlined the first major televised female MMA fight and helped establish the sport's legitimacy, didn't even get a mention. Even UFC president Dana White, and this is the important thing, folks, he came out, wasn't having it, right? He blasted the list and called out Disney for the slight, saying Gina Carano not being on the list is insane. Of course, he's right. I mean, this is the guy that made the sport go, right? MMA is UFC. I mean, it's almost like now it's like when you want a soda, you call it UFC. You want a Coke, it's UFC. It's like, come on, they're synonymous. So Carano never wanted to back down, took to X to clap back on Disney's ESPN directly. Gina smacked him down. Whap. She's great. Do you think ESPN MMA do not have qualified journalists who know real WMMA history, or are they trying to rewrite history by keeping me out of it? Even Dana White called them out. No, they will not be rewriting my history. If anything, they're writing themselves into something. I just think it's weird. This is the story, obviously, we were taking a look at in the entry there. But I'll tell you that they don't have any real writers that know this sport. There are no qualified journalists who know this. And they're not going to keep her out. She says, thanks everyone for the support. And you know what? You're welcome. And the fact that, look, she was a media darling. This is back in 2015 from this picture. You remember her talking at Comic-Con? I do.
Yeah. It's incredible. In my early personal training days, I became friends with Bob Clappish, legendary New York sports writer. And he helped one of my friends get to who ironically was a Mets fan get a job writing for Yankees.com. And you know, the one thing that Bob said was you can't be a sports writer if you're not a sports fan. And it's really it's just kind of funny to me that again ESPN, you know, for all intents and purposes was the standard bearer for you know for sports in media, and you're out here still trying to you know convince everybody that you're the guy to go to, and you make it's a shocking omission. It means Gina Carano is a foundational fixture. She's the one who changed Dana White's mind on having women fight in the UFC to begin with, right? If there's no Gina, there's probably no Ronda. There's probably no Amanda. I
There's no
keep
Holly
saying it.
Holm. There's no
Yeah,
Holly Holm. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem here is that you rewrite her out of the promotions she's known for, Elite XC, Strike Force. You write her out of that, right? There's no women's. Well, there probably isn't. I should say any women's. UFC. There just isn't. You know, and look, I mean, the guy that's synonymous with, as I said before, he's synonymous with MMA is Dana White, UFC, MMA. As far as most people are concerned these days, same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, they don't remember all the other promotions, and there still are other promotions out there with MMA. But again, Gina built women's MMA. And you're right. I mean, without her, we don't have women's UFC. We don't. It's all dudes. And look, I mean, it's not an easy sport. Certainly could be considered brutal. And you have to have a strength unmatched. And you know what? Of all the people I know, Gina has strength unmatched. But look, this is her career right here, Kevin. What do you think? I mean, do you think she's worth, recognizing?
Right. I think what it was, she had I'm trying to remember. I think it was four knockouts, one submission in her astonishing record. The and again, the only one loss, and you know, we could speculate about Cyborg's condition at the time, but you know, Cyborg was a killer. She earned her rep, and that was a heck of a fight. It was a heck of a fight. So again, to leave her off, I just really can't wrap my brain around it. It's baffling, man.
It's flabbergasting. And again, I mean, her background, of course, you know, she was 06 to 09, not a lot of time. Most UFC fighters don't really have lengthy careers. It's a brutal sport, kids.
Yeah.
And her background, beginning with Muay Thai and having a 12-1-1, and then her boyfriend at the time, Kevin Ross, says, "Hey, why don't you try this, MMA thing?" Well, I think that was a pretty good move. And boy, did she have the skill to join up with them. But she had key fights, defeated Leticia Pestova in 38 seconds. Wow. First ever sanctioned women's women's MMA bout in Nevada. Defeated Rosie Sexton, and I think that's right, at the World Pro Fighting. I'm not familiar with that name. Won late KO in round 2. First female fight in Strike Force was 06. That would beat Elena Maxwell in a unanimous decision. First televised female fight on Showtime. That's a pretty big deal. Beat Julie Kedzie in what was called the fight of the night. First submission win. Defeated Tanya Evinger with a rear naked choke. Not fun to have to tap out for something like that. Elite XC defeated Caitlin Young after failing to make weight at 0.5 pounds. Still fought and won. Man, it's crazy. Defeated Kelly Cobold. I mean, you just keep going.
Yeah.
These things aren't going away. The Chris Cyborg bout, I think, is one that almost everybody saw.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's historic. That Strike Force promotion was for real.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, UFC records aside, everything else, Gina opened the door for female MMA. I don't care what anybody says. And and then she moves into movies, in television shows, and I mean, other stuff. It's not like she sat on her laurels.
Well,
I mean, what stands out to you, Kevin? Is she more important as a sports figure or more important as a role model for acting?
I think it's both, especially when you look at her family's background. She chose the hard road, right? Like, right, she was a casino family, right? The She could have very easily slipped into the family business and coasted that way. She chose to Muay Thai, right? She chose to do something that requires a ton of grit, discipline, lifelong focus. Then jumps into MMA. Then you jump into acting. So she late in the game decided to learn a whole new skill set. And each step along the way, she has carried herself with dignity and with grace. I remember when they announced The Mandalorian, I wasn't too crazy about it. I only watched it because I wanted to see what it was. But then when I saw that Gina Carano was going to be on it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I know who that is. I'm into this. I have a DVD copy of Haywire on my DVD wall because buy physical media, people don't own things and like it. The so I'm a big Gina fan, and in terms of having an actual strong female role model, I don't think there's really anybody better out there than Gina Carano. She's mentally tough, sticks to her principles, and again, it's just carries herself with grace and dignity. This is someone who you should be celebrating from the rooftops, and ESPN just blew it.
They really did. I mean, and then you mentioned her family. Her family is like impressive. I mean, not just casinos aside. Her
Yeah,
dad was a professional football player in
yeah,
the AFL for the Cowboys. It's not like these are. It's not like these people are on cruise
yeah.
control. So yeah, she chose a harder road to go into both things that take an awful lot of devotion and a lot of time and investment. That doesn't matter how much money you have or how much family money or backing you've got. I mean, extraordinary and an extraordinary person to talk about. You know what, Kevin? I'm going to give you the final word here. What do you think uh, the right reaction would be here, as opposed to what Disney will likely do, which so far over the course of 8 months has been very quiet about this diss?
Listen, it's super simple. You amend the article, you give her due, you ask for forgiveness, and just do better next time, instead of sticking your head in the sand and hoping that that the outrage gives you a boost in marketing. Because I understand the old adage is there's no such thing as a bad press, but this day and age, no, 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 no. Especially when you're Disney, you need all the positive energy you can get. And had they done the right thing by Gina Carano, it would have made a lot of people very happy. That includes people who aren't normies, because unfortunately, normies are waking up, and Disney just has to start doing better across the board.
I agree with you. They got to stop taking L's. Well, Kevin, I just want to say thanks for joining us, guys. Keep an eye out for Kevin Apollo. His channel is coming soon, and believe me, you won't miss it because there's gonna be a lot of people promoting Kevin. Thanks for joining me today, Kevin. And folks, look, I maybe this is your first time here, maybe this is your thousandth. Just double check you're subscribed to the channel for more great stories like this one. We've got a lot coming up. 3 videos in total for today. It was a busy day, and more live streams tonight. So keep your eyes open. Plus, a very busy Tuesday, including, well, the pro show. You've got Morning Magic over there on That Park Place. And of course, the HCast, your favorite afternoon, evening podcast on a very busy Tuesday. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya for real. And